Yo, welcome back to another weekly market analysis video on my YouTube channel. So I'm here again to share with you what I think will be my outlook for the upcoming trading week. And if you've been following me for some time now, you realize that all the forecast and predictions that I made on all these pairs played out exactly as I forecasted. None of them failed, right? And so today, I'm here to share with you what I think will be my directional bias and outlook for Euro USD. We will talk about USDJPY, and we will talk also about gold. Okay, so real quick, let me kickstart with Euro USD, which is one of my favorite pairs. Okay, so always we starting from the higher time frame. So I'll start from the weekly time frame, right? And this is what I'm looking at on the weekly time frame. Okay, so here on the weekly time frame, this was the last high that created this low, right? And we can see that we made a shallow retracement and we are beginning a new kind of weekly leg, right? And so weekly we are bearish. So real quick, I'll step into the daily time frame and I'll show you what the daily is also doing. Okay, so here on the daily time frame, you realize that this is a high that has created this low. It tells me that this is my daily leg, right? This is what took out the previous weekly point of structure, right? So daily we are also bearish, aligning with the weekly time frame. Now looking at this daily push to the downside, if price decides to make any retracement, we will have two areas to look at. The first one will be right in here, and the second one will be right up here also. Okay, but then if price will make any retracement into any of these levels, the intraday time frames will tell us that, right? And so real quick, I'll step into H4, which is my higher time frame for intraday trades. Okay, so here on the H4 time frame, you're going to see something very interesting, and I need you to pay attention here. Okay, so right in here, this was the low that created this high on H4, right? After that, what do we see? We see price coming all the way back down, but clearly we can see that this last wick was never taken out. It created some sort of equal lows, right? After that, what do we get? We had a push, like a little retracement, and then we now came back down to take out this low of the H4 time frame. Now what this tells me is that this same leg, which I marked from the daily time frame as my daily leg, was that same leg that took out this H4 last point of demand. Hence I know that my H4 and my daily are sharing what? The same structural level. And with that in mind, I know now that this leg will be built by intraday time frames, like maybe M15 or H1. Okay, so real quick, I'll step into M15 and let's see what price is doing. Okay, so before that, I've already defined that if there is any intention of price to retrace higher, we're going to come into any of these levels, right? This here or the one up here. Okay, so real quick, let's step into M15 and let's see what M15 is doing. Okay, so coming in here on M15, you're going to see that this beautiful price action is building up, right? So this was where M15 changed intent to go bullish, right? So M15 has been flying bullish over the previous week, right? And so this was the last high that was taken out, and this is the last point of demand of M15 that created this high. Right now, what this tells me is that we can have price pushing all the way up from this level to the upside. But then listen to me carefully. In as much as I know, right, let me clear this one first. So in as much as I know that price has come into these levels of M15 demand, I also need price to tell me that it really wants to make that push to the upside. Okay, so always react to what? To price. Follow price and react to it. Okay, so real quick, I'll step into the 5-minute time frame, and then we're going to see if the lower time frames will also align with M15 to make the push to the upside. Okay, so real quick, look at the M5. So here on M5, we can see that M5 was making what? Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and then we had that break of structure right in here. So we had that first bearish break of structure right in here on M5, right? So it means that this was the high that created this low. We made a shallow retracement, and this was the new high that has now created this low, into where? M15 demand. Now, what this tells me is that if I want to see M15 continuing with the bulls, I will have to wait and have this level of M5 structure taken out. Okay, I will need to have this last level of M5 taken out. If this level is not taken out, trust me, M5 can still hold the bears and continue all the way to the downside. Okay, and also before I will expect price to come into this level of M5, right, to see if it will hold or it will break, I will also need to see the lower time frames, like 1 minute, like 3 minutes, telling me that it wants to do that. Okay, so real quick, I'll step into M1 and I'll show you what M1 is doing. So right here on M1, right, the first time that M1 made an attempt to go bullish was in here. Okay, we had that first break of structure. We can see that price came into these levels, right? We made a push to the upside, taking out this high, and then after that, price came back down to take out this low. Okay, so M1 switched bearish. This tells me that if I will need to see price again begin the bullish ride to the upside, I will need to have this high taken out. Now look at this setup in here. It looks almost like equal lows and liquidity grabbed, and so people will be looking at this as equal lows, right? And this would be the grab of liquidity, and so you'll be expecting price to come into this level, then you can buy to the upside. I don't have any problem if you look at that. Okay, but personally, if I would take any buys, I would need to see this high taken out before I will look at what price will be doing next. And then if I have any opportunity to buy to the upside into first the M5 supply, I'm gonna do that. If price comes into this M5 supply and gives me a reaction to sell back down, right, I'll also capitalize on that reaction to sell back down. If the M5 supply fails to hold and we get a break of structure, then I'll also start riding all the way to that 15-minute high, right? I'll be looking to see this 15-minute high taking out right into any of these supply zones that we looked at. Okay, but presently looking at whatever price is doing, trust me, in as much as we have M15 bullish, right, once these lower time frames are not aligning with M15, we can have this. Let me show you real quick. Once these lower time frames are not aligning with M15, we can have price coming all the way back down and taking out these two lows, right? Because these were the lows that were formed in the previous week. Okay, so if we have this level of M15 breaching, trust me, these lows will go away. Okay, and we're going to continue with the bears to the downside. But if the M15 demand decides to hold, right, then what we are going to look for is for price to come into this level, and if we break, fine, then we're going to ride all the way to the upside. But then if we don't break and we have this supply zone respecting, right, we're going to react to it and then we sell back down. Okay, so yeah, that is what I'll be looking at on Euro USD. Real quick, let me look at USDJPY before we look at gold. Okay, so we can, if you don't know, Euro USD is the inverse of USDJPY, and so I'm not going to waste much time on that. Okay, so here on USDJPY, real quick, I'll start from the daily time frame, right? And right in here, even as clear as day, we can see that this low has been taken out. This was the daily low that created this high, and we've had that taken out. So daily we are bearish, right? So after that daily break of structure, you can see that I have marked my supply zone nicely right in here, and the higher probability thing to do or to look for is to see price come into these levels, then we can push back down if price decides to. Okay, so real quick, I'll step into H4 and let's see what H4 is doing. Okay, so here on the H4 time frame, what can we see? We can see that H4, we've broken structure to the upside, right? Continuous break of structure to the upside. So H4, we are bullish, right? We are bullish on H4, and daily is bearish, right? This is telling us that the daily leg is making a retracement. Okay, so right in here we can see that price has taken out this high, right in here, because smart money traders were looking at this as point of interest. So this can be considered as an inducement, right? But then if you want to sell, you need to wait and make sure that the intraday time frames are telling you so. So real quick, I'll step into M15 and show you this. So here on the M15 time frame, right, we can see that this was the last low that created this high. On M15, we had this break of structure to the downside. It tells us that M15 is what is bearish, aligning with the daily time frame. Okay, and we can see how beautiful price has come into this level of M15 supply, right? But personally, I wouldn't be selling from here. Why? I have this high in here, which was in confluence with the Asian high, and you can see that the high has not been taken out yet. So in as much as M15 is bearish, right, I'll wait and see that this high is taken out first. If this high is taken out and probably taps into this level of daily supply, then I can see what price to do. And if this happens, it tells me that M15 has now switched what bullish, right? And so I will just be having counter trend trades into certain levels of M15 structure. And if M15 decide to hold and make the pushes to the upside, why not? I'll capitalize on that. But then after capitalizing on this counter trend opportunity, if this level breaks, then I'll look for another opportunity to continue with the sales to the downside, just like the daily is saying. Okay, so yeah, this is what I'll be looking at on USD JPY. Then before I go to the next pair, I just want you to have this in mind. You know, on Euro USD, I was telling you that if price decides to come down, it will be looking forward to what? To take out all those previous weekly lows that was made from last week, right? The same way, if this high is taken out, right, it makes the 15-minute bullish, like I said earlier. And if price decides to come in here and react or hold this demand zone, then you can expect the same thing happening, right? So once Euro USD is selling, USD JPY will be what? Will be buying. And if we buy all the way to break the daily structural level, then it is what it is. Okay, so real quick, I'll step onto gold and let's see what gold is doing. Okay, so here on gold, we've been looking at this for about 2 to 3 weeks now, right? So yeah, we marked this level of liquidity built in here all the way from 2 years ago. And I said from my previous videos that if price decides to come all the way back down, which I strongly believe it is going to happen, right, we will be taking out all these liquidity pools that was built from 2 years ago. Okay, so we are bearish. And real quick, if you step onto the daily, so right in here, once I see that the daily is bearish, I understand that this is my target liquidity, and this target liquidity is in confluence with all those liquidity built from 2 years ago. Hence, the higher probability thing that I'll be looking for price to do here on gold is to sweep these lows and all those liquidity that was built from 2 years ago. But then we need to make sure that the lower time frames are also telling us that. Okay, so real quick, I'll step into H4 and we will see what H4 is doing. Okay, so right in here we had the H4 low broken, right? We made a shallow retracement and we've made another push to the downside. We've returned into certain levels of supply of the H4, and we can see that the daily and the H4 are aligned, right? Now, once I'm coming from in here, right, the higher tendency first is to see this low taken out. No matter what is presented in here on intraday time frames to buy, I'm not going to buy. Okay, the highly probable thing to happen is to take out this low because that is a target liquidity. And before I step into 15-minute time frame, you're going to see this kind of order block in here. Trust me, this order block is not an order block to look for pro trend buys. Yes, we can have price come in here, and maybe on intraday time frames you're going to have maybe some 1:10s or 1:15s to catch, but this will just be a reactive demand zone, right? Sometimes we may not even have price reacting in this demand zone. It can break all the way and continue to this target liquidity, which I have said price will get to. Okay, so real quick, let's step into M15 and let's see what the M15 is doing. So right in here on the M15, what we can also see is that this was the last low that created this high, right? and we've broken structure to the downside. After that, what do we see? We've had another leg of M15 that created this. Okay, so M15 we are bearish. So you can see that all the time frames are aligning. Daily we are bearish, H4 we are bearish, M15 we are bearish. We have target liquidity to grab. We have liquidity from 2 years ago to also grab. Okay, now seeing this leg, right, on a normal day, my supply zone on the 15-minute time frame is going to be this big. Okay, what it tells me is that I will need to see price come into this level and then we make a push to the downside. But then you can refine this big 15-minute supply zones in M5. So real quick, I'll step into M5 and show you this. So right in here, if I'm refining, this will be my first zone to look at, and my second one will come in here. What it means is that if price decides to retrace, and of course we can see that price has shown that intention to make that retracement right in here. Okay, so if market opens, we can expect price to come into any of these levels, right, and then we sell back down. Okay, so either the higher one or the lower one, and we sell back down. And like I said, my first target will be to take out this H4 target liquidity, and then subsequently into taking out the daily target and all those liquidity that was built from 2 years ago. Now, it doesn't mean that this high of M15 can't be taken out. We can have that. We can have a scenario where price would break this high of M15. In this moment, we will see that M15 has switched bullish, and probably you'll be waiting for price to retrace into certain levels, then we can buy. But then this is not highly probable. Looking at whatever is presented to us currently, the highly probable thing is to see price come into this level and then we continue with the sales to the downside. Okay, so this is what I'll be looking at on these three pairs, right? If you found value in this video, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you within the week for another educative video. Peace out.